So, welcome to our Sunday Bhagavatam class. Today we're going to read some very, very beautiful poetic verses. I wish you all could understand the Sanskrit because it's really beautiful. Arjuna remembering his pastimes with Krishna. So, very exceptionally beautiful verses in Sanskrit. Anyway, we'll begin with text 115.9, first canto, chapter 15, text 9. So Arjuna said, Arjuna speaking to Yudhisthira and remembering, text 7. I just got reminded, all glories to modern technique. Everything I said is true about Arjuna. I was just looking through the verses and I forgot to go back to the first one. So, yes. Okay. So the first verse we're reading today is, 115.7. 115.7. Jet Sangshayad Drupada Geham Upagatanam Rajnam Swayang Varamukhe Smara Durmadanam Tejo Hirtang Kalu Mayabihatas Chamatsya Saji Kritena Dhanushadhigata Cha Krishna. So I'll read this now without stopping, just so you can see what the Sanskrit sounds like. Jat Sangshaya Drupada Geham Upagatanang Rajnang Sayang Varamukhe Smara Durmadanang Tejo Hritang Kalumaya Vihatas Chamatya Saji Kritena Dhanushadhigata Cha Krishna. So, Jat Sangshayat, because of having shelter in him. Shraya, ashraya means shelter, and here it's the same word shraya, just with a different prefix. Sangshaya, ashraya. So sangshaya would mean like complete shelter. So having complete shelter in him, let's see, I'm trying to do this in English word order. That Tejo Kritam, that I took away the power or the potency of the kings. Tejo Hritang. Actually, Arjuna doesn't even say I. He's really giving all the credit to Krishna. He's saying the tejas, the potency, Rajnam, the first word in the second line, of the kings, Rajnam, Upagatanam, who had arrived at the home of Drupada. So this is the Swayamvara ceremony when Arjuna won Draupadi. So because of shelter in him, because of taking full shelter in him, the potency, the tejas, hritam, was taken away. The potency, Rajnam, of the kings, Upagatanam, who had arrived at Drupada's home to win Draupadi, of course. Swayang Varamukhe, literally in the face of the Swayamvara, like right there in the Swayamvara. Swayam means personal, and Vara means choice or boon. So the idea was that a young princess could create a challenge, a test to win her hand, which favored the prince she really wanted to marry. So in that sense, it's a Swayamvara, which simply means, Swayamvara means in Sanskrit, personal choice. So sort of one of the ways you can say that right there at the Swayamvara is, they say, Sanskrit says, Swayamvara Mukhe, in the face of the Swayamvara, like right there. So these princes who were Smara Durmadanam, who had become crazy with Cupid. Smara means Cupid. So Mada is just like in English, it means mad, and Durmada means like really gone. So Smara, who were just like crazy with pride and crazy with this desire for Draupadi. So of those kings or princes who were Smara Durmadanam, and Prabhupada translates all lusty in thought, and who had come to the home of Drupada in the face of the Swayamvara. Tejo Hritam. So of all those kings, Tejo Hritam, all the power was taken away. The power was taken away. Their power to win Draupadi. Kalu Maya, by me. Their power was taken away, or their splendor. Prabhupada, Teja, Prabhupada translates it power in the word for word. It also means like their brilliance, their splendor, their magnificence. It was all taken away. And Prabhupada says, vanquish, Hrita, literally taken away. And by me, and Abhihatascha Matsya, and the fish, the Matsya, was directly struck. That was the target. The target was the fish. You know, all the contestants had to look at the reflection of a fish in water that was moving. So, you know, the image is moving, and you had to look at that image, not directly at the target, and hit the fish. And so the fish was struck by me, and thus the splendor, the pride, the power of all these kings was taken away by me who Saji Kritena Danusha, by my strung bow. Danusha means by the bow, like Dhanurveda is literally like the archery Veda. So Danusha, by my bow, the famous Gandiva bow of Arjuna, Saji Kritena, which was strung. Saji Krit means strung, to string a bow. And so by that bow that was strung, the fish was struck by me, and the pride, the sort of the glory of all these kings was taken away. All these kings were so mad with Cupid in the Swayamvara, and who had gone to Drupada's house, and Adhikatacha Krishna, and Krishna with a long A at the end, which makes it a feminine word, Krishna, and therefore it's Draupadi, was gained. That he very chivalrously, Arjuna won Draupadi, he gained Draupadi, Adhigata, with his bow, with his strung bow. So that's the verse, very beautiful in Sanskrit. Jat sangsaya drupada geham upagatanam rajnam sayang varamukhe smaradur madanam te jo hritam kalumaya bihatascha matsyak sajji kritena danushadi cha Krishna. So that's text 115.7. And then Arjuna will remember other things. Yet sannidhav. So that means sannidhi is like in the presence or proximity. So yet here obviously refers to Krishna. So in his presence. And again, Arjuna is attributing all these amazing feats, all these great achievements to Krishna. So in the previous verse, Arjuna began by saying, yet, sangshayat. Yet means whose, by whose shelter, or because of whose shelter. So he's beginning his statements that way. In this next verse, he says, in whose presence. In whose presence. Aham, and I, Kandavam Agnaye Adam. Literally, I gave Kandava to Agni. Agnaye means unto Agni. Adam, I gave. I gave Kandava. So it's simple Sanskrit, but poetic. In whose presence, indeed, I gave Kandava to Agni. Indrang cha samara ganang tarasa vijitya. Quickly, vijitya, having quickly conquered or defeated Indrang, Samara Ganam. And Sa here means with. Sa Amara Ganam. Amara, immortal. So the Amaras, I mean, they're not technically immortal, but they live such a long time. They're called Amaras, or the deathless, literally. Mara, mortal. So Amara, deathless. So with the deathless group, Gana, gun. Actually, the Sanskrit word gun as a verb means to count, and so Gana means a group of people, like a certain number of people. In fact, you could say a number of people. And so in Bengali, interestingly, in Sanskritic Bengali, you put the word Gana, literally the count or the number, after a noun to make it plural. So if you want to say not just bhakta or bhakata, devotee, but the devotees, all the devotees, you say bhakata gana. Bhakata gana means like, it just makes it plural, like all the devotees. So here, Amara Ganam, the group of or numbers of deathless ones, demigods, Sa, with them. So having defeated Indra with the demigods, as we say in ISKCON, with the demigods, Tarasa, quickly. Tarasa means quickly or easily. Prabhupada translates it here as with all dexterity. So Vijiji, having conquered Indra and the gods, Labdha Sava, and I gained the assembly hall, the Sabha. In ISKCON, there is now an assembly of devotees, senior devotees who advise the GBC. Unfortunately, very sadly, people say things like Sabha or Saba, which is, anyway, the Sanskrit word is Sabha, which means an assembly. So Labdha Sabha. So because later on, Arjun, when he spared the life of a Gandharva, he gained this great assembly hall, famous assembly hall. Labdha Sabha Maya Krita, built by Maya. This is not Maya with the long A, which means illusion. This is Maya, the short A, which is the that sort of mystic architect and builder of the Asuras, Maya. So Maya Krita, built by Maya, Adbhuta Shilpa Maya. And it's interesting, it's obviously a poetic play on words. So it says built by Maya with a short A, and it contained Maya, Shilpa, all kinds of like magical craft, magical workmanship, Shilpa. Amazing illusory workmanship, as we saw in the Rajasuya sacrifice, when Duryodhana, stepped in the water because he got faked out. He was fooled by precisely this Adbhuta Shilpa Maya, this amazing illusory craftsmanship. So that assembly hall was gained, and Digbhyo Harandrapatayo Balimadharete. And Digbhyo, dig means direction, and so Digbhyo, from the directions, in Sanskrit means from all the directions. Nirpatayo, the kings, literally the lords of the people. Nir in Sanskrit, N, vowel R, is an abbreviation of Nara, which means human beings, and Pati is the master, lord. So Nirpati, the people master, the people lord, is a name for king, common name for king. So here the plural, Nirpatiyo. So the Nirpatiyo, the people masters, the kings, brought Balim, tribute from all directions, Adhvarete, to your great sacrifice, which was the Rajasuya. So Arjuna is remembering all the amazing things that happened because of Krishna's mercy. And then And of course, Arjuna says, in whose presence? In whose presence? So yes, the word advara means sacrifice. So it's a Rajasuya sacrifice or a sacrificial arena. So the next verse 9, yet tejasa nripa shirongri hanmakartam aryo nujastava gajayuta sattavirya tenahrita pramatanatha makaya bhupa janmochitas tadanayan balimadharete. So, by whose potency, by whose power. It's very nice because it's Jan Sannidho, and the first verse we read was yet. So these verses are very poetic. By whose shelter, and then the next verse was from whose presence, and now this verse, yet tejasa, by whose power. Nripa Shirongri Mahan Makartam. So Krishna, by whose power, Aryo here, Arya is just, of course, the word Arya means Bhima. Means Bhima. Arya means a respectable person, like that gentleman or that nobleman, that noble man. So Arya, Ahan, that's the subject of the Sanskrit, and it's very poetic. The words are all over the place, but the basic sentence is Arya, the noble man, Bhima, Ahan, killed by whose power, by Krishna's influence or potency, killed a person whose feet, Angrim, were adorned with the heads of kings. So all these kings, these powerful kings, were just putting their head at his feet, hoping he didn't kill them. So by whose power the Arya, the noble man, Ahan, killed the one whose feet were adorned by the heads of kings. And why did Bhima do this? Makartam. Maka means a sacrifice, and artam for the purpose of sacrifice. Because remember, Narada Muni told Krishna and Dwarka that you cannot perform, or the Pandavas cannot perform, the Rajasuya sacrifice until Jarasandha is killed, because you can only perform Rajasuya if all the kings accept you, and there's no way Jarasandha is going to accept Yudhishthira. So for the purpose of sacrifice, and then Arjuna tells Yudhishthira that Arya, the noble person who is Anujastava, your younger brother. Ja means born, Anu means after. So the afterborn, that's a common way that you say in Sanskrit, younger brother, Anuja. For example, the Anuja, the younger brother of Indra, is Lord Vamana, and that's why he's called Indranuja, or as devotees in the West say charmingly, Indranuja, or something like that. Anyway, it's actually Indranuja, which means the Anuja, the afterborn, the younger brother of Indra, or for example, Ramanuja, who is Lakshman. It's a name of, Ramanujacharya, who he had a spiritual name, which is the younger brother of Rama. And what do devotees say? Ramanuja? Yeah, it is kind of amusing. Ramanuja. Anyway, it's Ramanuja. So Bhima says to Arjuna says to Yudhishthira, your younger brother, your noble younger brother, who is Gajayuta Sattva Virya, who has the virya, the power and the strength. Sattva here means like the power, strength, endurance, or words like that. Of Gajayuta, of 10,000 elephants. Gaja is elephant. Ayuta means 10,000. So he's glorifying Bhima here. Just the endurance, the sattva, the force, the might, the strength. So he has the strength and power of 10,000 elephants. Your brother, your noble younger brother, who has the strength and power of 10,000 elephants, killed the king at whose feet were the heads of kings. And he did this. He killed him for the purpose of sacrifice, and he did it by the power of Krishna. So literally, that's what the first two lines say. And then, Tena hrita pramatanata makaya bhupa janmochitas tat anayan balimadhvarete. So you killed Jarasandha, by whom Bhupa. Bhu is earth, and Pa means the rulers, just like Nripa. It's like the lords of men. So here, another word for king is Bhupa, lords of earth. So Bhupa, and so by whom? By Jarasandha, the Bhupa, the lords of earth were taken away, were kidnapped for sacrifice to Pramatanata, for sacrifice to the Lord of Ghosts. In other words, Shiva, or Shiva's wife, Devi, Durga. So for Mukha, again, so it's very interesting because you have this competition of Mukhas. Mukha is sacrifice. So Jarasandha kidnapped all these kings because he wanted to do his Mukha unto the Lord of Ghosts, and to do a different Mukha, Makhartam, because the word Makaya in the third line and Makartam have the same meaning. It means the same thing. Makaya is just the dative form, which means for that purpose. So Makartam or Makaya. So both Yudhisthira and Jarasandha have to do something in order to carry out their sacrifices, their mukhas. Jarasandha, for his sacrifice, he kidnapped all these kings. He's going to slaughter them, just butcher them. Really, what was he thinking? He's going to butcher all these kings who had wives and children. He's going to butcher these kings in this horrible mode of ignorant sacrifice to Durga or to Shiva. But Arjuna, Yudhisthira, wants to do a different sacrifice, a Rajasuya, in which he's going to establish himself as the legitimate protector of all the other kings. So Yudhisthira wants to protect all the kings, and Jarasandha wants to butcher them. So is it all one? No. There's a very clear difference, but both of them want to do a Mukha. And eventually they fight. Narada Muni says to Krishna, well, the Pandavas, with all due respect, cannot do their Mukha. They cannot do their sacrifice as long as Jarasandha is alive. So it's really who's going to get to do their sacrifice. Is it going to be to butcher all the kings and thus establish oneself as this like Hitler type figure? Or is it going to be a sacrifice to establish the Pandavas as legitimate protectors of all the kings? So it's very interesting. So those kings who were going to be sacrificed and who had been kidnapped by Jarasandha, Janmochitas, they were freed, they were liberated by Krishna. The first word of the first line, Yat Tejasa, and the same word Yan. It's the same word, it's just the one is Yat, one is Yan. That's just Sunday. So they were by whose power all this happened, and then they were liberated by whom? Tadanayan Balimadhvarete. So when they were liberated, they brought Anayan tribute, Balim, Advarete, to your sacrifice. When Krishna, by empowering Bhima, or you could say, liberated by Bhima, or by Bhima empowered by Krishna, when these liberated kings, and imagine you're about to be butchered and suddenly a hero comes and frees you. I mean, imagine how grateful they were. And so these same kings, liberated by the Pandavas, then brought tribute to the Pandavas, as Arjuna says to his brother, Advare te, at your sacrifice, at your Rajasuya. This is a very beautiful verse. I'm trying to sort of break it all down for you because it's sort of sophisticated Sanskrit, poetic Sanskrit. I'm trying to make it all clear what it all means. So maybe I'll stop there for today, actually. And let me see if there are any questions. These are long verses, and I want to really try to get you inside the verse, see what's actually happening there in terms of this beautiful Sanskrit composition. So let's see. Start at the top here. So thank you for your comments. Much appreciated. Let's see, scrolling down, attempting to scroll down. Looking for questions here. I guess I have to manually scroll down. So far, no questions. Oh, season's greetings to everyone, by the way. I guess everyone is still kind of recovering from Christmas Day, so there's no questions. Just kidding. Here's a question, Jagat Palana. Sacrifice is seen to be performed either with good or bad material intentions. Not exactly. Not exactly. In the case of the Pandavas and their Rajasuya sacrifice, the point was Krishna's purpose, because Yudhishthira was just obeying Krishna, who insisted that Yudhishthira do this. Krishna wanted a pure devotee to rule the world, a pure devotee, and that certainly is not material. So in this case, the Rajasuya sacrifice, it may be without that intention, without Krishna consciousness, you can say it is a material sacrifice to get royal power. But in this case, it was Krishna himself who arranged it because he wanted pure devotees to govern the world. So that was not material. So Radha Kanta, I'll translate from Spanish. Se dan los sacrificios en todos niveles personales. I'm not sure exactly what the question is. I mean, I understand the Spanish, but these sacrifices, like Rajasuya, are state sacrifices. They are so expensive because there's all kinds of details and things you have to buy. And you have to engage Brahmins, and they have to be paid because you have to give them charity. And so these sacrifices are so complex, so elaborate, so expensive that really they can only be done by governments, by kings. So whereas, let's say, Brahmins or other people at home, there were domestic sacrifices, like the Agnihotra, where pious people would either perform or have their Brahmin perform a little fire sacrifice in the morning. And so there were personal, what are called griha, or domestic or home sacrifices. And then there were these great state sacrifices, which were ultimately meant for the good of the society. So I hope I answered that. De la persona, en la persona. So I guess that's it. There's no other questions. Again, season's greetings to everyone. I hope you are all thinking of Krishna and inspired by the holiday season, whatever holiday you celebrate at this time of year, to increase your service to Krishna and your devotion. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.